What would the United States do if Hezbollah, Syria and Iran invaded Israel now? Hamas attacking Israel. Israel being in a state of war. What would the United States do if ever this scenario occurs? We'd likely air drone strike the hell out of the Syrian military. We've done it before. Iran isn't doing any invading though. That would be left up to Hezbollah, which would blanket Israel with rockets and missiles that are far more sophisticated than what Hamas is lobbing. Hez also has far more. If things really got out of hand, I could also see targets in Lebanon being on the table for the US. But we would probably focus on resupply a la Ukraine while the Israelis fought a truly brutal total war. The US would only directly intervene if it looked like Israel is at risk of losing, which isn't likely. Well, so far only Hamas and Hezbollah have invaded and the US has a CSG underway. Probably incentivize manufacturing and raw material gathering because the world ain't getting any more peaceful as the days go on. Israel has fought multiple countries on their own in the past, even in the worst odds of the Yom Kippur War. Nixon did not send boots on the ground, he sent munitions. Look at the map again. Look at where Iran is. Now look at where Israel is. How does Iran invade Israel? Realistically? The Israelis have proven more than capable of defending themselves against invasion, even by a combined multinational coalition. In addition to being a nuclear weapons state, something that cannot be said for any other country in the Middle East. At most, we would provide Israel with additional weaponry and intelligence cooperation, strengthening our presence in the Gulf, perhaps conducting airstrikes on Iranian forces and whoever else we could hit. But overall we wouldn't really need to do much. Our priority would be trying to convince the Israelis not to turn Tehran into a parking lot. The IS has a carrier surface group in the ocean right next to Israel right now for monitoring purposes. If war came and Israel requested it, it's very possible the US would enforce no-fly zones over Lebanon and the West Bank, and maybe even assist the IAF with airstrikes. They would be met with the swift reaction of the Naval Combat Group in the Mediterranean, and if it was further escalated by those countries after having their military and communications networks obliterated in a matter of days, it wouldn't take long before a lot of coalition troops would be used on the ground in special deployments. I don't think Israel would need much support besides arms ammo packages. Syria is in no shape to invade anyone logistically. Iran simply couldn't. It would be more interesting to see what Iraq, Jordan wouldn't do. US attention is divided right now between Russia and China. They know they're low in the US priority list and cannot commit too hard, especially since they just left Afghanistan. Having said that, a single IS carrier group is still a force not to be trifled with. Almost like there's a carrier group moving closer to Israel in the Med right now. It'd start flying sorties and providing info back to Israel. But I doubt there's much appetite for much more, especially considering there is no defense treaty with Israel. If there is ever a war in the Middle East, I would refuse to go, as if it looks like we are going to lose, then it would just go nuclear anyway. And I would rather die fishing than fighting in some crappie war. We'd be involved in another forever war. Lebanon and Gaza are both literally on the Mediterranean Sea. Intervention as far as the US is concerned would be low cost and likely involve tactical strikes on high-value military targets. That assumes, of course, that Gaza and Hezbollah are able to mount any sort of serious attack after the initial surprise of their cowardly sneak attack wears off. I'm dying to hear how Iran, with essentially no air force and a navy consisting of base trackers, invades Israel. Or Disneyland for that matter. I don't think anyone could actually predict what would happen. It really might eventually become a direct war with the US. Thoughts and prayers. Probably a massive aerial campaign, but I don't see the US putting boots on the ground. The US public really don't want that. It would be a lot like Ukraine, but they wouldn't be buying our bombs before they explode. Doubt it would be boots on the ground, but I think against Iran direct action would happen. The US would love an excuse to knock out Iran's nuclear program, and defending Israel would make a great reason. Based on years and years of every person in the US government, they would have to intervene. They treat Israel as the 51 state, so it would be declaring war on them as well. Nothing. US doesn't have to send nobody there. Israel is capable of defending itself. It never asked foreign armies to fight on its behalf. They would continue to fund both sides. Carpet bomb Gaza corridor, most likely to end this ASAP. Can't have oil and gas supplies messes with too much in Middle East. Doubtful boots in ground, just massive air and sea support. Nothing. Since none of those countries or groups are capable of invading Israel in any meaningful sense. Haven't we seen this before? Despite the numbers, Israel would soundly defeat such an alliance. I hope that people will remember history and step back from the precipice they're staring into. However, I'm afraid that Hamas, Iran, whatever, will get all the fighting they want. Of course they will lose. Likely in a fashion devastating to their citizens. Gaza may disappear from the map because of this attack. There could be hundreds of thousands of refugees pushed into the desert. What consequences Iran will face? Who knows? I think we've just seen the treatment the average Israeli citizen can expect from their Arab neighbors. I also believe that if it ever gets to the point where Israel is losing and losing badly, they will resort to using nuclear weapons, as I believe most nuclear powers would. However, not every country has the Samson option, which Israel has never admitted having, but which it has been reported they do. Were it Syria alone, we'd likely provide air support, intelligence, etc. But I don't believe with just Syria the situation would warrant American troops on the ground. However, if Iran were involved too, that would likely change things. Iran mined the Persian Gulf in 1988, and the United States responded by destroying the Iranian navy. Given how close Iran is to the development of nuclear weapons and Israel's own possession of nuclear weapons on top of past history with the US, I'd imagine Iran as a country and civilization would soon come to be spoken of in the past tense. The Syrian army is on its knees already. They can't even manage the insurgency in their own country. Iran is thousands of miles away. Those countries will not invade Israel. There won't be a landing on Tel Aviv beach. The main risk is Lebanese Hezbollah Iranian proxy getting involved with their rocket arsenal. Then you will see a repeat of 2006. No US involvement. Israel is able to manage this. US will continue to send ammo and supplies, which will affect Ukraine support. Hamas leaders were in Moscow a few months ago. They definitely got a little nudge from Putin. Hopefully nothing, but probably an equal response and declaration of war. Israel has nuclear ballistic missiles. Iran and Syria would be insane to invade. Wouldn't have Toto much. Israel would destroy them. If you're too young to remember the Iraq shock and awe champagne, Google it. It would likely look like that, but with 20 years to study and improve on it. Fortunately or not, Syria, Assad and Russia are busy committing massive human rights abuses in Idlib. The American public are not interested in the Middle East anymore, so I don't think that they will send boots on the ground in this scenario.